On March 14, 1879, baby Einstein emerged with a swollen, misshapen head and a grossly overweight body, according to Dennis Bryan's book, Einstein, A Life. When she got a look at him later, the chunky child terrified Einstein's grandmother, who screamed, "Much too fat. Much too fat." Thankfully, Albert would eventually grow into his body. However, he did have trouble developing in other arenas. He supposedly wouldn't start speaking until the age of 2. The young genius had a habit of throwing objects whenever he was displeased. Once, a frustrated Einstein even threw a chair at his teacher. The 5-year-old enjoyed bombarding his tutors and family members. His sister Maha, who was often conked in the head by Einstein's fusillades, later quipped, "It takes a sound skull to be the sister of an intellectual." According to the biography by Alice Calabrese and Trevor Lipscomb, when he became angry, his whole face turned yellow except for the tip of his nose, which turned white. The idea that Einstein had trouble in school is a myth. During summers, a preteen Einstein would study mathematics and physics for fun, eventually mastering differential and integral calculus by age 15. But that's not to say he was a perfect student. Einstein hated rote learning and refused to study subjects that didn't interest him. So, naturally, when the obstinate number lover took the entrance exam to the Polytechnic School in Zurich, he flunked the language, zoology, and botany sections. Einstein's IQ was never tested, though that hasn't stopped people from guessing. Lots of websites claim the physicist's IQ was 160, but there's simply no way of verifying that claim. One fundamental problem with the estimates I've seen is that they tend to conflate intellectual ability with domain-specific achievement. Dean Keith Simonton, professor emeritus of psychology at the University of California, Davis told Biography. For all we know, Einstein's aptitude in arenas outside of physics might have rivaled that of an average Joe. Whenever Einstein needed to relax, he turned to music. He started violin lessons at age 5 and, at around 17, impressed his teachers at Cantonal School with his playing during a music exam. Around 1914, when Einstein lived in Berlin, he'd play sonatas with his friend and fellow theoretical physicist, Max Planck. And after he became famous, Einstein would play a handful benefit concerts alongside greats like Fritz Kreisler. Music helps him when he is thinking about his theories, his second wife, Elsa, said. He goes to his study, comes back, strikes a few chords on the piano, jots something down, returns to his study. Einstein hated wearing socks and was immensely proud of the fact that he didn't have to wear them while giving lectures at Oxford in the 1930s. His antipathy apparently stemmed from a childhood realization. "When I was young I found out that the big toe always ends up making a hole in a sock," Einstein reportedly said. "So I stopped wearing socks." As an adult, he typically wore an undershirt, baggy trousers held by rope, and a pair of, occasionally women's, sandals. While an undergraduate in Zurich, Einstein fell in love with sailing, a passion that would persist throughout his life. There was just one problem: he was a horrible sailor. He regularly tipped his boat over and required rescue dozens of times. His sailboat was named Tinef, Yiddish for worthless. In 1935, the New York Times reported on Einstein's sailing misadventures with the punny headline, "Relative Tide and Sandbars Trap Einstein." As a young man, Einstein sported a well-maintained head of dark hair, that is, until his son Hans was born in 1904. Like many new parents, Einstein discovered that having a new mouth to feed changed everything. The patent clerk was so busy trying to support his family that he stopped combing his hair and visiting the barber. Slowly, an iconic look was born. Einstein would spurn barbers for the rest of his life. His second wife, Elsa, would cut his mop whenever it became disheveled. When Einstein was a patent clerk, he formed a book club with 2 friends and called it the Olympia Academy. The trio usually dined on sausages, Gruyere cheese, fruit, and tea. But on Einstein's birthday, his friends brought expensive caviar as a surprise. Einstein, who had a knack for mindlessly eating when talking about something he was passionate about, began stuffing his face while discussing Galileo's principle of inertia, totally unaware of what he was eating. He later offered this excuse: "Well, if you offer gourmet foods to peasants like me, you know they won't appreciate it." Einstein enjoyed the occasional dirty joke. When he accepted his first job as a professor, he said, I too am an official member of the Guild of Whores." And when a member of his book club gave him a nameplate that said, "Albert, Knight of the Backside," Einstein proudly kept it tacked on his apartment door. Later in life, he'd tell jokes to his pet parrot, Bibo. Einstein believed the bird was depressed and needed a laugh.